Hiya. Hi.
Oh, right. We've got 1 minute. We forgot to do the intro and our guest is in the waiting room.
She is. I'm dead excited.
So we've got somebody quite special today. I'm excited about this. I'm always excited, aren't I? But Kelly Pegg from the Hot Mess Mums podcast. Here she is. I'm going to let her in live now. If you can see us, you'll know she's coming. Dun, dun, dun. It's not exactly the technical setup that she has, is it?
Oh, no, not at all.
Hello. Hi.
We were just saying, Kelly, it's not the technical setup that you have. This is my bed, one microphone, two friends.
Oh, that's okay though. It's fun, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? We couldn't survive without our producer Callum because we don't know anything technical. So without him, we'd be stuffed.
We don't know anything technical either, so we are stuffed.
I just had to bend the screen to get Alex's awful picture out of the background.
I'm actually gutted and offended about, and I never usually am, because I've got this picture which I really love that says...
I thought she just had it there for having it there. I didn't know she actually liked it. It's awful.
I actually really like it. She's just insulted it. It's on the back of all our videos, so now everybody who watches our podcast knows that she hates my picture.
Oh no, there's so much pressure with Zoom as well to have a background, isn't there? You know, people are like talking to you, but they're looking at what's behind you in your room and everything. I'm in the kitchen. You can't really sit. My house is a tip today, so.
Yeah, but Kelly, I've seen your house on Instagram. I want a full tour. It looks absolutely stunning.
Oh, we're getting there. We're getting there slowly with it all.
So I just wanted to sort of introduce, because we completely forgot to do our intro. So you are straight in. You're like the first voice on the podcast, pretty much. So just a little bit of background. We met through Kerry Walker and Nakoa, didn't we, originally on COA Week?
Yes, yeah, we did. We were introduced by them and we were on a sort of panel together.
Oh, which was amazing. And like afterwards, I went away, and your kind of the empathy that you have and the compassion that you have, and I'm saying had, but only because it was there, but you have. I really warmed to it. Like, you were so emotional and so in touch with it. And I've always struggled with that. I'm not very good with getting emotional in even my own story anymore. I used to be a real crier, didn't I? I don't know whether I've healed or just blanked. I'm not sure which. But I kind of don't get very emotional anymore. So it was really lovely to sort of see how close it is to your heart and how much you're still so compassionate about it. That's what warmed me to you originally.
Oh, that's so lovely. Well, I thought you were amazing on that panel. You spoke so well. And that's something I probably don't do so much, because I do get emotional. You know, I remember watching you talk that night and thinking, wow, because you could just explain things so well, you know? So we were all sitting there going, yeah, we get that. Yeah. We know what you mean. It was the way you
explain.
Yeah, it was the way you sort of very much so, which is a real gift in itself as well. So, but yeah, I mean, I've only just started talking about it really like this in the last year, since meeting Nakoa, being introduced to them, and then meeting Josh Connolly, who obviously does a lot with Nakoa, and doing some bits with him, and that's really it's just sort of gone from there. I hadn't spoken about it a lot before then. I'd written about it and had some bits published, and I spoke about it once on the radio, but excuse me, the phone's going. I'll kill my husband if it's him, because I've told him not to ring me. 2 seconds. I'm sorry.
It's good.
I'll just buzz it off.
Funny, at least she's not having a lunch.
That is true. It's funny because I was listening to one of...
It is. I've turned him off. It is him. And I just literally messaged him 1 minute before we all connected to say, I'm going on my podcast, the podcast now that I'm doing. So I'll talk to you later. What part of that means ring me?
They just don't get it, do they?
Yeah, they're not.
I'm so sorry.
Don't worry about it, honestly. We once had somebody on our podcast who halfway through, and we're not great at editing like we were just talking about. We can edit, and we do edit if we really have to. Like, usually when I say something stupid, because I've said all sorts of things and then thought that can't stay in. But yeah, usually when I've said something, we've edited it out. But anyway, yeah, this one guest decided to just say, can you just hold on, and spend 20 minutes having a lunch?
Yeah, I'm just going to go and get my dinner, honest to God.
Oh my
we
God.
We sat there like, it was quite early on as well into the
we didn't know how to deal with it, did we?
We didn't know boundaries then, did we?
No.
That's like such a big word now, isn't it? Boundaries.
Yeah, that's so bad though. Oh my, I'm trying to think. No, I don't think I've ever had anything like that. I've interviewed people when I worked in radio who have eaten down the line. So you're asking them questions. Little Mix do that, and they eat. And we'd be like, oh my God, it's so rude. Do you know? But that takes it to another level. Can you just wait there while I go and eat?
Alex was like, well, we don't really edit it. And she was like, oh, I'll teach you how if you want.
I was like, no, that's not really the point. Just don't eat your lunch. No, to be fair, she'd actually, and we are kind of being a bit flippant, she'd actually been away to America and just landed. So she was starving. Tired. Oh. And, to be fair, she did a great podcast as well, didn't she?
Yeah, it was good. Anyway, back to you, Kelly. I was listening to your podcast that you did with Josh actually yesterday, and it is really emotional. So I kind of get what you were saying there. Are we all right to talk a little bit about your story?
Yes, yeah, of course. Yeah. I feel like I do it more and more now. So yes.
Oh, get you dead good at it.
Of course.
You're your head off by end. No emotion left.
I'll hold you to that.
You will, I promise. So, like, going right back, if you're like me, did you even know you were like, I don't even know if you use the label, but like a COA? Did you know that you were COA, or did you know there was anything different, or?
Oh, I knew we were different, but I thought we were the only ones. I didn't think anyone else went through that or had that in their lives, because I didn't know anybody. All my friends were normal. They had normal lives and normal parents and normal goings on. So no, it's only in the last year that I've found out about the term COA through NICOA and all of that. Obviously, in my 20s and 30s, I realised that this goes on, and it wasn't just me. But as a child, it was just isolating, really, because you felt like the odd one out. And as a teenager, it was particularly difficult.
Were you kind of a well-behaved teenager, or did you rebel because of it?
Oh yeah, no, I was wild. Yeah, I was really wild. I was nightclubbing when I was 13, going out with guys a lot older than me. I ended up in a gang. I was truant at school. I was just tearing up the floor, basically. I was definitely not a model pupil. I was trouble, whereas my brother was A star, like the perfect textbook child. So we were very, very different in how we handled what was going on around us. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Kelly, there's some feedback from someone. Can you hear it?
Yeah, I can hear it. No.
Is it me?
It might be.
Do you want me to can you hear my mic at all? Because I can't hear it. I wonder if it's any... Is it still feeding back now?
Yeah.
Like a squeak, a really high pitched. Oh,
right.
Oh.
Stopped.
Is that better?
Yeah. Oh.
It's the headphones. I'll take them off. I've taken them out. That better?
It sort of keeps coming when you speak.
Yeah,
weirdly.
It's really weird.
Hang on, let me have a look at my desk.
Yeah, but yours is a bit dodgy, isn't it?
That's only the power.
Which is quite important.
Yeah, but it ain't going to feed back. I think it is Kelly's luck, because now she's gone, it's gone.
Shall I do a little pause?
No, we'll have a little chat.
Okay, then.
Try that. Any better?
No, I don't know what it is. Right, we're going to pause for a second, Kelly.
Okay.
Right, we're back. The squeaking's gone. You'll just have to shout really loud now. There's no mic now. You can't hear Kelly anymore.
That's not a problem. I'm a mum. I'm used to shouting. It's fine. All good.
Can you take us through your kind of what you're comfortable with your story? Like, what kind of becomes apparent? Was it your mum? Was it your dad? Was it both?
So both my parents drank.
I didn't live with them. I lived with my grandparents. Adam and I, my brother and I, were brought up with them from a very young age. So I was 2.5 and he was a baby when they took us in. They were in their 50s. And then my parents divorced when I was 13. But they both drank. We would go and stay with them on Saturday evenings, and we would have holidays with them in the summer. And my memories of that is always shrouded with alcohol, and then falling asleep on the beach. At night, you know, they'd be so heavily asleep, you could never wake them up if you needed to. But what I didn't know then was, obviously, my mum was in a very bad marriage with my dad. So black eyes, broken ribs, fractures. It was abusive, and it was mentally abusive as well. But obviously I was too young at the time. And then when I was about 12, I realised what was going on. They divorced when I was 13, and I moved in to look after her. He stopped drinking. You know, he never drank like she did. What happened with her was it became everything. So the first thing she'd do in the morning, she'd do it throughout the day at work. It was everything, you know. Whereas for him, I think he'd just drink heavy on the weekends. And then when they divorced, obviously, I think it wasn't a thing for him anymore. And it became more and more of a thing for her. She ended up in hospital not that long after their separation, where she was told that if she continued to drink, she would die. And I was just very cross with her. And my grandparents were amazing, because they just loved her. They didn't understand it, because they were both hardworking people who didn't drink. So they didn't know where this had come from. And they paid him off. They paid the mortgage off for her. They bought her a car. They did all these wonderful things, so she never had to worry. But she still continued to drink. That window that she came home from the hospital, she was sober for about a fortnight, and it was like treading on eggshells.
Oh, yeah.
She didn't want to be sober. She didn't want to get help. She didn't want it, you know. And so living with her as a teenager was, you know, a real experience, really. From that early stage of being 13 and drinking with her and smoking with her and being able to be wild, thinking she was so cool, to desperately needing a mother, some rules, you know, a parent, some boundaries that never appeared. And our relationship became more fractured as I grew older. Yeah. It was just it became far more difficult. And then when I was 19, obviously, she died. And you know, it's taken a long time to get to a place now. I'm 40 in October, where I can say that I've forgiven her and that I love her and miss her very much. And I'm in a place where I'm okay with it. Yeah. But that's taken a lot to get there, and to not be angry anymore, because I've been really angry and unbalanced in my life because of it. It has lots of effects on us all, doesn't it, in different ways. But I'm in a place where there is no anger anymore, just sadness, which is harder, but it's better for me to deal with it in that way.
Oh, it's miles better for you. It's that whole range of emotions, isn't it? Like, you know, my dad got sober for 10 years before he actually died. And it's that whole range of emotions of being angry at what he'd done, at being angry that I almost felt like he'd stolen my childhood, like it was, you know, you've stolen things from me. But I absolutely idolized him all at the same time. And then when I got angry, I felt guilty. When I felt guilty, I felt stupid. You know, like, and unlike you, I was, how you have just described your brother, really hard working at school, really wanted to do the best, wanted to please my dad. I don't relate to some of the things that kind of Josh and Kerry have said in the past, of the whole, even though it's quite abusive at times, I don't relate to some of the kind of roles thing necessarily, you know. Some of it I do. Some of it I really do. And I don't know whether it is just that I've now come to peace with it and come to terms with it. My mum's still very much on the scene. I have a great relationship with her. She struggles if I talk about my dad, because she kind of has pulled out the last 10 years of his life and plastered over
the rest of it.
Like the 19 years that I remember prior to that, for my mum, doesn't exist. It's all forgiven, it's all gone. So it's not taboo, but it's tricky to talk about. And I think that's where my story is slightly different.
Yes, yeah.
I can't vocalize it always in the same way that maybe I'd like to.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, like when Kelly was saying then as a teenager how angry you must have been to kind of hear, you know, the doctors say if you're going to carry on drinking, you are going to die. And then for as a daughter to kind of, you just, you know, you just want your mum to love you and do everything for you, and you can't understand why would they carry on drinking when they've been told they're not going to be here anymore. And that for you it's making me dead goose pimply and emotional, because it just must have been so difficult for you to hear her kind of be told that and then not actively do anything about it.
It was, I just didn't understand it. And I always felt like it was my fault, you know, by having me, because I was the first child, it kind of ruined her life, you know. It made her stay in this marriage, or I don't know what kept her in the marriage, but, you know, I think she loved him. I think she loved him up to the day she died. And he is just, you know, he's still alive, so I have to be careful what I say, but, you know, he may be biologically my dad, but that's all. And yeah, at that point, we'd been away with him. He'd taken us to Blackpool, and it was awful. Like, being with him was just awful. So Adam and I had this terrible few days in this B&B. You know, he was not fit to be a parent, and we couldn't get hold of anyone at home. And the phone box, Nan and Grandad weren't answering. So we knew something was wrong. So when he did drop us off, obviously they'd been at the hospital. Mobile phones weren't a thing then. God, I'm old. So
it's awful when we say that, isn't it?
Yeah. So there was no way of telling us, and they didn't want to upset us anyway. So, you know, and then it all came out. She was nowhere to be seen. She's in hospital. She's got liver cirrhosis. It's serious. And, you know, I remember storming into her bed on this ward and absolutely ripping into her. You know, I mean, I was furious. And my brother never behaved like that towards her. So their relationship was very different. So whereas I was so angry and vocal, you know, how can it be like this? How can you do this to us? Why aren't we enough for you to be a better person? He was very different. I mean, the day that we had to take her to hospital when I was 19, I knew that was the end. And it was awful. And she wouldn't get out of her bed to get dressed to go to the hospital. And he was the one that went in and convinced her. And she wouldn't get in my car unless he came, because he was so gentle with her. Now, he's not gentle, he's quite opinionated, Adam, but with her, he was a different, you know, whereas I was just so angry. And even that day, I remember the doctor examining her, and her, you know, she didn't know where she was. This alcohol had ravaged her. It had ripped her apart. It had ravaged her brain. It had just destroyed her. And she was lying to the doctor, saying, I don't drink, you know. And I was saying, are we really doing this right now? You know, and I was getting so cross. And there he is, just being so calm with her. And we walked out. They said, you've got to go home. We've got to put her on a ward. We've got to get her seen by someone. You need to leave. And we walked out to my car, and my brother said, we'll never see her again, will we?
Oh God, it's awful.
That's it, you know. And it was hard, because there's nothing you can do. But at the time, because I was so angry, you know, there was part of me that was relieved that it was over. And they called us the next night and they said, it's really bad. I mean, I don't want to be graphic on this, but when people have liver cirrhosis and it gets really bad, there's a lot of blood and it's a very awful way to die, you know. And they said it's really bad, it's not pretty, but literally if you're going to come in, and it was like the middle of the night, you know, this will be the last time you see her. And we just said, we can't do that, we can't see her that way, we cannot do it, you know. And it I don't know, how do you ever say that to anyone and explain it?
You can't unless you've lived it. And you know, I get that, and that chokes me, because my dad went the same way in the end, in the same way, and the colouring was all wrong. And then even afterwards, when we went to visit the coffin, we could only have the coffin open for a day or so because things happen so quickly afterwards. And yeah, I completely relate. It's just, when you're talking about it's yeah, I can replay it. And I was in Cyprus at the time as well, so very much like you, that not being able to see them for the last time, but knowing the last time you saw them was the last time, I can really relate to.
You know what's really weird as well? I was 19 when my stepdad died of the same thing, and I don't know why, I've never really thought about it. I've never looked back at that time. Do you know what I mean? It's like I've put a blockage and you kind of opened a few gates there while you was telling me that. But we had a pub, and he died of the same thing. I was 19, and I've never kind of attached it to alcohol, even though I know it was alcohol. It just sounds so ridiculous. But I just, honestly, I wish this were real life, because I just want to give you the biggest hug right now. I really, really do. But, you know, like, how, because you are so together and amazing and successful and fabulous now, like, how have you got from kind of dealing with that to where you are now? And do you drink?
So which way do you want to ask?
I don't know, there were so many. I had even more. You were lucky I stopped right then. I'm like, shh.
Your police interview.
Oh dear.
Which should we go first?
I think we should ask you whether you drink and what your relationship with alcohol's like.
So I was sober for nearly a year during the whole pandemic. I went through a really bizarre phase of not wanting to drink anymore at all, and feeling really guilty if I did have a glass of wine, waking up in the night and thinking about her and really worrying about it. And I don't know what it was. I don't know whether it was to do with the fact that she was 44 when she died. So I'm 40 in October. So whether it was I was coming up to that point in my head or whatever, I had a massive fear that I would be her. And my husband had a real issue with it, because he was like, you're nothing like it. Like, you know, this is, and I said, it's something going on with me at the minute. So therefore, I don't want it in my life right now.
Yeah.
And you know, I never thought about it at all. And then it was coming up to a year, and I was in London with friends, and I was with Jenny actually, and we were with some of her friends who couldn't believe that I didn't drink, and they didn't believe me. So when they went to the bar, I ordered a sparkling water, and what I got was a gin and tonic.
No.
So I'm sitting there with this straw, and I'm like, this tastes like gin.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, because there's nobody who doesn't drink. And this is what you come up against, isn't it? Yeah. Who doesn't drink? Yeah. You know? And I said, I don't. And we were actually going to a launch party, and the goblets of this gin that they were giving out, and and I didn't touch a drop, because I said, no, I really don't, you know. But it made me think a lot about how people react to it, and you. And then at Christmas, we would always have a little drink in the day in our house, but we didn't. We had non-alcoholic wine. And then my husband and I had a little port together. So that was my sort of first official drink back, if you like. And then I decided not to label it anymore, because I accepted I'm not like her, just if that makes sense. And I feel comfortable with that. I don't buy it in the house. I don't have alcohol in the house. I wouldn't buy it on a night and have it when I'm stressed or on a week, nothing like that. But, you know, if Chris and I went out for a meal, I might not. That's how I see it. And I don't kind of because what I found was by telling people, it was the reactions that I was getting to it that I struggled with. So I thought, you know what, I don't need to say anything to anyone. I don't label it. I just don't have it in my life.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Our members find the hardest, the fact that either people's reactions all the time of, wow, you don't drink, why don't you drink? And you've got to remember as well, like us, they don't have what could be considered any form of healthy relationship with alcohol, because we didn't. Neither of us had a healthy relationship. Neither of us truthfully associate with the word alcoholic, but both of us used alcohol as a coping mechanism.
Yeah, but I think so many people do though.
Alcohol as a coping mechanism.
That's true.
That's the thing. I would have always classed myself as a normal, a binge drinker, a bit of a party animal, the last one at that's what I'd have said them days.
A bit of a party animal. She was the shock queen.
But that to me was my normal. So I never ever realised that I was drinking to numb out things until I actually stopped drinking. And then over like the first year, I was like, oh my God, this is when I would have picked up a drink. And then I started to realise over the years how much I drank for. I have quite bad social anxiety, and I still get it now. You know, if we go out and I have non-alcoholic drinks, I will drink them as quick as I used to drink alcohol because I get all anxious.
Yeah.
And then obviously stress. So it wasn't until I stopped I realised that was a problem.
I think you're right. I think she's right, because mine was like that.
Oh, don't copy me.
I was like a proper binger though.
No, you owned up to alcoholic the other week.
Well,
so you can keep that.
No, I'm actually going to re-clarify that, because this is what I think about the word alcoholic. I keep saying it. I don't believe, you know, like when I think about the definition, the actual definition and stereotype of an alcoholic, if you're going to say, was I an alcoholic, and think of the stereotype, no. Definitely not. I wouldn't wake up in the morning and have a drink. I wouldn't sit on a park bench with a brown paper bag and some vodka in it and have a drink. No. But if you look at what alcoholic really means, all it means is depends on alcohol. And I did depend on it. So that's all I was saying, that actually I depended on alcohol when I finished work on a Friday to unwind. I depended on it to have a good time. I depended on it to cry, because I couldn't cry without a drink inside me. I didn't have any emotion about anything. But then when I did, you couldn't turn the tears off. You couldn't turn the anger off. So there was I used it to express normal emotions. So if I was feeling sad, I mean, I think I told you this, Kelly, what triggered my non-drinking was I actually had a miscarriage in 2018. I was 39. I lost this baby, which it floored me. There was no way I should have lost the baby. I couldn't understand it. I was 12 weeks, everything was going well, I was healthy, I wasn't drinking, lost the baby, and it sent me under. And I used alcohol every single day at that point for 6 months to just hold myself together. I went to work when I could. I drank on the evenings to pull myself through. Then I'd cry about it. Then I'd get angry. Then I'd bring up all the childhood stuff that I'd not talked about for years. And it sent me into a very bad place of depression. So that's what happened with mine.
Now I feel bad.
Yeah, sure you should. Well, she knows this, by the way, because she was the one who picked me up after it all. So
I have to say to both of you how amazing you both are, though, to sit here and just to even discuss those stories and to even say that about yourself. And I know we're having a laugh and a joke, but it takes a lot to even delve there. And there are so many people that we'll hear you talk and go, I do that, I do that, but I've not got a problem. Because how many people really, and this is something I really think about a lot, how many people really drink just because, doesn't the red wine go nice with a steak? I mean, it never is. It's always for a reason. It's to relax, it's to feel less nervous, it's because you're in a room with someone you don't like. There's always something. And therefore you have to ask yourself, is that healthy? Would we say to someone who perhaps hated meetings and every time they went into one had to sit and eat 2 great big cream donuts before they spoke to anyone, what would we say? We'd be like, that is not good for your cholesterol level, like, please don't do it. The thing is, it's a $1 billion industry out there. You've got these big TV shows that are endorsed by it. We see it. Chris and I talk about this all the time, where we watch shows and it's alcohol in them all the time. You've got the Queen Vic in EastEnders, the Rovers return in Coronation Street. That's never going to change. They're never going to stop because they make too much money from it. But it is the most dangerous drug, and it's legal.
Yeah.
And people need to wake up to that and really get a grip with it, because there's a real issue there. And I think by what you ladies do, you're really fighting that fight and that corner and giving other people a safe space to be sober and to know it's okay, because we need it.
And that's what we want to get across. You know what? You don't have to be the label. You don't have to be the label. I know people who are the label. I have known people who are the label. But actually, you don't have to be the label. If at any point in your relationship with alcohol, you realise, or even if you don't realise, if you think about it and you go, maybe I am using it to get through my day, to get through my week, then it is a dependence. Whether or not you like that, whether or not you want to see the facts, that is the truth of it.
People
because
don't want to see
they
the
don't
facts.
want to see the fact. We actually both were really quite heavily criticised, and we don't care, by a workplace. We do workplace presentations, and they wanted us to paint it in a pretty light of some people can drink normally and we can. And we said, no, we won't do that.
Yeah, they wanted like a horror story from us, like we were raging alcoholics and now look at us. And we was like, well, actually, alcohol is addictive. And they were fuming, not just a bit, they were fuming that we had said alcohol was addictive. And we were like,
but it is. It's like sugar, it is like sugar. And we hear more and more about this as well all the time. It's people who want to bury their head in the sands, I think. I mean, that is ridiculous. I know Nakoa have struggled with getting stories on national TV because they want the kitchen sink, they want the council house estate with the mum that looks like she's not got 2 pennies to rub together. They want the bottom pit kind of image. It doesn't exist. I had a friend who his dad is a millionaire, and they were loaded. His wife, raging wino. She had a massive problem, and he dealt with it his whole childhood. She was beautiful, very posh, designer clothes head to toe, could not leave a bottle of wine alone. Does she tick that box? No. It's ridiculous. And to say it's not addictive, I mean, I even worry that when you've had for me, it's a grey area. Some people don't, but I think addiction can be genetic. And I think you have to be aware of that. When you've had a parent who has had an addiction, you have to sort of look at you and realise it could be there. And how do you make sure you don't follow that pattern? I can't believe that they wanted that instead of sort of praising you. And
we'd actually said what you said before about the government making so much money on it. And that's the bit we didn't like as well, isn't it? Because we'd kind of put the figures out there that the government make this much money, and it doesn't matter. They spend so much on the services. They've actually just cut alcohol services, which is why Nakoa can't get funding. It's so sad. So they're making billions and billions of pounds, but they didn't like us saying that, did we?
No.
They said that we were
evangelical.
That's what they said.
Well, if this is evangelical, we're proud and evangelical.
You're helping people be healthier with their life and live longer and be better human beings, and that is it's so important. It just beggars belief, doesn't it? I tell you what, we've got COVID, let's just shut gyms. But, first time round, help out to eat out, go and knock yourself out and have wine at lunchtime, half price, and we'll keep all the fast food restaurants open. I mean, we've got it all wrong. This
all down, doesn't it?
Yeah, this idea of we'll make you ill so we can make a profit out of it, I really do believe in. You know, and I think we have to be very aware of that. And it's true, it's like the tobacco industry. They just make too much money. So what happens if a couple of 100 people die a day from it? Who cares? It's just mind-blowing, you know.
Whole new conversation that could be had there, and I can feel a bubble in here.
Oh
Right?
no, it's because I know I saw a couple of your co-host videos, and I'm like, yes, go on, Jenny.
Oh God, what's she been putting on there?
We'll leave that.
We'll leave that. If anyone wants to look, please go across and have a look. But yeah, no, you know, it's so true. I mean, you're numbed down. You're not aware of what's going on because everybody else is doing it. You feel. And that's what kept me stuck, by the way, because I looked at my dad and my dad's relationship with alcohol and thought, well, I'm nowhere near that bad. We always know somebody that's a heavier drinker or a more addicted drinker. So it keeps you stuck in the realm of normal that doesn't actually really exist. It's just a scale, a sliding scale. You're either addicted or you're getting addicted. And it's, you know, that's the facts. We're not kind of making this up. It's an addictive carcinogenic drug. It's been proven to only be safe to drink half a glass a year if it was tested in the same way as other drugs.
Well, look at the back of the bottle. To anyone who thinks it's got goodness in, look at the back and you tell me what those things are, those chemicals that are on the ingredients list. It's poison.
It is poison.
I've been to the gym this morning and I've been with my friend, and bless her, she went to a baby shower 2 days ago, had way too much Prosecco because it was like first time out, seeing all her friends since lockdown. And she's so ill. And today, 2 days on, and she said, I just can't, what have I done to myself, Kelly? She said, I feel like I've poisoned myself. And I said, you kind of have. You know, I'm not going to preach, but you kind of have. And this is, you know, and it's not funny. We come from this thing of, you know, oh, we have this big joke, you know, how drunk can you get? And, oh, look at me with my hangover. It's not funny what you're doing to your body. And we're very lucky we have livers. They're amazing things to regenerate everything, because you are poisoning yourself when you drink.
That's why we have a hangover, isn't it? Because that's detoxing and you're feeling rough. And it's the only kind of drug that will go, I know, I'm not working on Sunday. I can have a full day in bed just to get over it. So I'm going to plan a big one here. You wouldn't sort of say, would you, I'm going to have COVID on Wednesday. You know what I mean? So
at the moment.
Don't start. But you know, I'm gonna get this on Wednesday. I'm not going to do this on Wednesday. Let's leave COVID out of it. I'm not going to get chicken pox on Wednesday. Yeah, I'll go with chicken pox. But it's true, you know, like it's the only thing we plan to be ill for, and then accept it. We accept that, you know, I won't drive, I can't drive, I've got my license, but I'm prepared to restrict myself and stay in.
I used to proper plan. I used to get like the diver lights and everything. I did. Kind of. Honestly, we went. For like
which is why we're saying it's like we don't know each other. We've done it together.
On a Blackpool trip, and like proper plan, got diver lights. I remember like introducing you to them, and then you found a better one than me.
Yeah. But we've done it, you know, like you go away and I brought what are called ORS drops, the rehydration for athletes. That's what they're meant for, and diarrhea. But we used to both, particularly me, I think, when I first had my little one who's 5 now, my youngest, I used to go to my in-laws' house, bring upstairs. I'm smiling, but it's more uncomfortable than I'm actually, my face says. But bring upstairs a banana and like a cereal bar, 2 Beechams for me and my husband, a bottle of water to make them with, and our rehydration salts. So I was planning that I was going to be in bed. He was going to eat at the side of me. I wasn't getting up out of that bed until at least 2 p.m. And I'm thinking, wow, like I can't imagine being that person anymore. And I'm not kind of saying you're a bad person if you have the odd hangover here and there, but what a waste.
Yeah, a waste of a day, a waste of your life. You know, it's not fun feeling like that, is it? And then sort of thinking, what did I say who did I, like Hayley's, my friend, bless her, she's got a big bruise on her head today. Oh. What she said, well, I was dancing, you know, and apparently I fell over. Yeah, and this is what people attack. And I mean, she's sort of laughing, but inside I can see her thinking, I don't want to do that again. I don't want to be in that position again. Because I think you just get to a certain age in your life as well. And when you're a parent also, where you do start to assess everything that you do. And that feeling is just so horrible, you know, of being hungover and just wasting a week, I think it gets as you get older for people, you know.
Well, it's really bad apparently when we're not there yet, thankfully, but when you get to the menopause, apparently it's very, very bad then because of the hormones and the effects on the hormones and the fact that your estrogen's depleting. It can become even worse, the hangovers. So kind of glad that I did that before I get to menopause.
Oh gosh,
yeah, get it out of the way.
Yeah, it's gone, done. So can we just go back now, and Lisa did kind of ask about how you got through what you got through to just get where you are now. Like, you know, what did you do to safeguard yourself and to just get on? You've done amazing.
Oh, that's so kind of you both. I think because sometimes you don't really think about it, do you, so much, you know, how you got there and what you've done. I just had a determination really I wanted to work in radio, and it was what pulled me through. You know, I was 16 and I'd done pretty well at my GCSEs, and I couldn't believe it, considering I'd not been there half the time. And, you know, we'd have one of those awful career guys, and Josh and I have talked about this because he had the same conversation, who just sat there and said, you need to go in the army, you need to learn discipline, and you'd be great. And I just thought, wanker. And I remember thinking, you know, whatever. But when I got my results, I realised that I'd done pretty well and I probably didn't deserve to. And I got into a good college, and I decided that was it for me. I knew what I wanted to do, and so I was going to do it, you know. And it wasn't easy, obviously. It wasn't a straight path for me. I went to university after my A-levels, but my mum's drinking was so bad and my brother was struggling so much that I quit and came home to be there for him, because he was far cleverer than I was, and I wanted him to do well. So, and it, you know, I was needed to be there really. So that went wrong. And then she died, obviously, and that was really difficult. And in between this time, I was working jobs, and I was working at radio stations, answering phones for free and doing all sorts of things I knew what I wanted to do. And I got back to uni when I was older, after she died. And then I got my first job in radio. And I suppose that kind of drive and ambition rooted from everything, really. It was I'll show you. I'm not a write-off, like people spoke about me, you know, the girl that we don't want our kids hanging around with, that, you know, kind of thing. And I think that was a huge part of what held me together, was that I got my career, and, you know, it was everything to me for a long time. And I think that was really important. And I was lucky. I had my nan, and, you know, who's amazing. But it wasn't straightforward. It's only in my 30s that I've come to find a balance and an acceptance. And really, actually, since I left radio, I've probably been the happiest now that I've ever been.
Yeah.
You know, I'm happy with my lot, and I like my life very much. I don't know that radio was the best choice for me because of what I've been through, and it's very cutthroat. So the higher you go, the harder it gets, and it's very much about rejection. And there's a lot of stuff that goes on that isn't very nice. But for me, that was the core of getting me the drive to get me out, to get me to make something of myself, to be, you know, where I want to be. And then my husband is, you know, a big credit to all of that. Massively so, because it's very difficult to find somebody, you know, he didn't have any of what we've had in our lives. So, you know, it's a bit of a head wobble, but he is incredible with it all. And I credit him with everything, and my kids as well, to, you know, to this point where I'm very lucky and I have a lovely life, and it's down to them. And I think, you know, in lots of ways, it could have gone very different, because I wasn't sure I'd ever get married and have children. I didn't know, you know, I didn't know that I was capable of it, to be honest. because
yeah,
when you feel unloved by your own mother, you really ask yourself if you could ever love what happens if I do the same and I don't want them, it was a big thing for me. But he was the one that, he weren't taking any of it. He knew I could do it and everything. So yes, and you've got to have a lot of determination, haven't you, to get through it, really, and I've never been bitter. I'm not a bitter person. I don't believe in that.
Yeah, you can see that. You know what I think is so lovely, Kelly, is just what an inspiration you have. I think that you can tell your story now. I know you said you've not been telling it for very long, and we always say this to kind of be proud of your story, because what you have to say will help so many other people, and that's whether it's parents, children of alcoholics, but there might be just that one person listening, like, I can turn my life around, or everything will be okay. Because for some people, they can't even imagine that future, can they? And I think,
and I was one of them. I can totally relate to that. Honestly, I didn't know where I think I would end up when I was a teenager, and I was going through the time that I was in, hanging around with the unsavory people that I used to socialize with, and the trouble I got into. I was written off, and not necessarily even if it affects you in that way. You just don't know what will become of you, because your parents are supposed to be everything. They cement the security, the safety, they help you grow, and when you don't have any of that, it's very difficult, isn't it? But the thing is, it doesn't define you, and you have to know that. That's very important when I talk about it, is that I want people to know that they can still be anything they want to be at the end of the day. And it might be harder, and it might be more painful than someone who's had a normal upbringing. However, you can still do it.
You remind me of, but not remind me of, but the conversation we had with, I see again, this is a moment that might need editing, but our conversation with Michael Macy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like, have you read Michael Macy's book, Young Offender?
Oh, no.
Kelly, read it. Oh, listen to it. Don't read it. Listen to it. It's him telling the story, Michael Macy. It's Young Offender, and how that man does. He's incredible, and you just remind me of a female version in many ways.
Yeah, I get that.
Of, like, how inspiring you are, what you're doing. Yeah, read the book. And email us about it, or message.
Oh, I will do. Yeah, I like the audio books. I can just put my.
You'll love it. I could not stop listening.
Well, you won't love it, but you will love it. It might trigger some emotions.
Oh yeah, we best say that.
It's not like you'll love it like, oh, that was a nice book.
It's not a fairy tale.
It's not.
No. But he's and we did a podcast with him as well, if you ever want to listen to it. But he very much reminds me. You'll see why, the whole gang thing, and the way that you say you were written off and then you've come through it. And I think it's so easy to write young people off. I also think it's easy to miss the people like your brother and like I was. No one knew I needed help. No one knew probably your brother needed help, because he held it together and just got on with it. Whereas if you look at what people say is the typical child, the rebel, they're where the support's going. They're where everybody's looking and saying, what's making this child behave that way? Can't always stop them.
No.
But the other ones.
What I will say about being the wild one, I think, is that you get a lot of it out.
Yeah.
I'm a communicator. That's what I do. Yeah. So it's you talk, and I still talk. If I want to talk about my mum, I'll ring my nan and we'll sit and we'll chat that day. I do. I'm very, very open with her and Chris. If I feel sad, then I'll talk about that to do with her. And I'll talk to my children about her. They obviously too young to know what happened, but my brother is very internal. So I don't know with you and your siblings, both of you, but I can send him a message about something to do with her and he won't reply.
Yeah.
He doesn't talk about it. It's not something, and I think because of that, actually, it affects how he behaves sometimes. He'd disagree with me, but I don't think it's healthy for him. But that's the way he's coped with it. Head down, it is what it is. He can't deal with it. he just can't seem to face that. You know, he knows I do all of this, and he thinks that's great, but he won't talk about it.
It's funny, yeah, because me and my sister are kind of a blend then, because I'm very vocal about it, very open, we'll talk about it. And yet I was the head down, get on with it. My sister was the rebel, but she doesn't talk about it. She doesn't actually, I think sometimes we grew up in different households.
They say that though, don't they?
Yeah.
You can't expect both of you though to take it the same way, can you? Because siblings, you are so different. Anyway, that you're never going to, and your relationship with the addict is always different. You know, everyone has a different relationship and therefore has a different way of dealing with it afterwards as well, because you're affected for life.
Definitely.
By what, you know, by growing up around it and by having it in your life. And I think that's a great thing about NACOA, is that they're putting the young people first, because often everyone concentrates on the addict, they've got to get help, what are we going to do about them, and they just forget everyone around them is so badly affected by it in a you know, it's so traumatic.
It's traumatic without knowing you're being traumatized. I think that's the thing. So I still don't accept that I lived through trauma, still don't accept that it was traumatizing, because I don't know any different. So I can't really sit and think what it would have been like any other way. That was just my normal for me. So when I tell it, and I think that's why some people have said to me in the past that I'm quite cold. I don't believe I'm cold. You know, I'm not cold.
No, I don't think
I'm cold, you know, like, because I just blah, 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 I'm matter of fact about it. And I think that's very similar to what you discussed about a coping mechanism, about the way that I don't want to let it back in. So I just talk about it as if it didn't happen, or as if it happened to someone else. It's weird, isn't it? But yeah, you know what? It's been so lovely talking to you, Kelly. I kind of I had high hopes for this conversation, and it exceeded them. It really has. Like, it was so lovely hearing more about your story and getting to know you a little bit more since.
It is, and thank you so much for trusting us with it.
Oh, of course. Well, thank you so much for asking me to be on and be a guest on the podcast as well. It's a huge honour, you know, and I genuinely mean that. And it's been a really nice conversation. We've laughed through it as well, which is actually really nice. You know, we did a podcast with Kerry Katona, and her story is very harrowing, and I found it very upsetting. And throughout, you know, I could feel myself going constantly. She just kept laughing, and she said, look, I laugh through my story. This is what I do. This is how I handle it. And I think actually, if you can bring laughter in with it when it's quite serious and heavy, it lightens the load a little bit, doesn't it?
I listened to that podcast last night, Kelly, that you did with Kerry, and I thought, and I could feel that you had gotten emotional about it, because you'd said that to her, and I said to you today, like, wow, what that woman has been.
It bothered me all night. Like, I kept talking about Chris all the time, that I was outraged that she'd gone through that, and that she could, she's still friends with her mum.
I know,
you know, but when we talk about forgiveness, you know, there you are. But she really she's a very special person.
Yeah, who's pimples now when you're saying that.
We're gonna try and get her on ours, but
if you need any help, just speak to me and I'll get Jen on it, because Jen and her, that's how we got her. So, you know, just give me a nod and I'll put Jenny on.
Nod.
I asked Jenny to.
Thank you.
That. And honestly, thank you so much for coming on. When we put, not that you're going to probably need it from ours, I'm sure everybody's heard of your podcast, but we will link to you so that people.
Oh yeah, that's fine. And I'd like to post on our podcast page for you as well as my personal. Just, you know, it's nice to show the people who listen other podcasts that we support as well. So I'll put it on both pages.
Oh, thanks, Kelly. That means a lot.
It's fine. I hope this has been okay. I always come off these things and think, oh God, because I'm so used to being the interviewer, not the interviewee. So.
Promise you, this is exactly what our members will love, that our listeners will love it. We get a lot of good feedback in the way you've just said it, how we can turn very serious topics into not fun, because they're not fun, but we can find the fun in it somewhere, even if it's just interweaved. Don't know the word.
The light and shade. And I think it's important. It really is. So people can laugh with you and cry with you. They feel the whole range of emotions, you know, which is good. You girls have got it nailed.
It's
I'm
the
loving
friendship.
it.
We figured out the other day that we've been friends for 30 years in September. So there's nothing.
I didn't even know I were 30.
She is. She's actually younger than me though, a bit. 16 months, I'll give her. But yeah, we met in school. So we really have seen the good, the bad, and the ugly in each other, haven't we?
Yeah, you know, when you said that before, Kelly, about coming up to 40, we was driving somewhere the other day and I was like, can you believe we're like 40-year-old women? Like, we're actual women doing women's stuff.
This is
in
what
our
she was
40s.
saying.
I can't believe it.
We were in separate cars, by the way. This is what happens with us.
Oh, were we?
Yeah,
we're on the phone.
Separate car. This is what we do all the time. We never know when we've been together and when we haven't. Separate phones, separate cars, having a full conversation. I'll drive to her house, which is about an hour away, on the phone to her all the way, and get out of the car and she'll be stood at the door and we're still on the phone. I'm like, I'm here now.
Bad. We've become codependent, I think.
That sounds like me and my husband. He'll be driving home. He's like, I'm just coming in the drive. I'm like, get off the fucking phone. You'll have nothing to tell me when you get in. What?
My husband's jealous of us.
Yeah.
Really.
Honestly, the other day she rang me and I got in, I was like, I'm going now because I'm getting in the shower. Anyway, I ended up propping the phone up, having a full shower, and my daughter was like, have you just been in the shower with Alex? I was like,
We're everything, like, you know, go for a wee while we're on the phone together. We must speak. I bet if we looked at our call log, I bet we speak for about 4 hours out of every day.
Bad. It's so bad. It really is.
It's lovely though, and isn't it amazing to see that kind of female friendship, you know, because it's all about supporting each other and raising each other up, and there's just not enough of that either, you know, two women pitched against each other. So I love to see this, you know. I think it's really special.
It's got very soppy. We actually say on, you know, like if we're on a Zoom together, we say, oh, I'm going to miss you now. I love you.
Stop.
It's ridiculous.
Enough.
Well,
so much, Kelly.
It's a pleasure. Thanks, ladies.
And I love your t-shirt, by the way.
Do you know this is Sea Soul and Snow, Sinead on Instagram. You know, she does all the Hot Mess Mum t-shirts. If you find her on Instagram, she sent me this as a gift. It was for Women's Day, but she does all that kind of thing. I love her stuff.
It's so lovely. I'll definitely have a look.
She's
at
adding
that.
her. No, she's got a phone in her hand. Get off.
She's great. Well, do you know she was in Waitrose the other day and she bumped into Rebel Wilson, you know, the actress?
Oh, yeah.
In Cheshire. And she recognised her from her hoodies. And so she put together a goodie bag and whisked it over to her hotel.
Oh.
So she's international with Sinead, but she's lovely. I mean, loads of celebrities wear her stuff, but she's just, you know, I love her slogans and she's great.
Yeah,
so
there'll be another one getting a Kelly Pegg name drop, I reckon.
Oh, thank you, Kelly.
Thanks, Kelly.
Take care, ladies. Thank you so much.
See you later.
Bye.